2, 1. Hey folks, welcome to Bouncing Brains. We're recording Sunday, August 25th, 2019, episode 74. I'm Sean Hatfield.
And I'm Freddy G.
You know what, man, I want to jump in this with some music appreciation, man. I'll tell you who I was digging on recently that, like, I just haven't picked up an album in a while, man. It was fucking Jizza. I just kind of forgot for a while how much I appreciated that motherfucker as a lyricist, man. Like, I was listening back to, what was it, Liquid Swords?
Yeah.
And, like, I can't exactly remember when it was he started doing this, but even with the tracks that he does with the other members of the Wu-Tang, like, I'm trying to remember the track, but it was Method Man on it.
Yeah.
And, you know, Method Man's Method Man, man. He ain't gonna censor himself, man. But if you listen to Jizza's rhymes, like, he stopped cussing, like, at some point. Like, he still drops a motherfucker every once in a while.
Yeah.
Wow, man. But, like, you can tell.
Isn't he the one that turned Muslim?
No, that was
One of them.
that was Ghostface.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ghostface.
Yeah.
One, because I was like, one of them in the Wu-Tang went Muslim.
Shit, you never even know with RZA, man. That motherfucker he's playing around with all kinds of shit. One day he's Muslim, one day he thinks he's an android. I mean, you gotta love the motherfucker, man. Hell of a producer.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Yeah, man. That's why the Wu-Tang's always been one of the best groups of all time, because every one of the members has their own cadence, their own point of view, their own way of writing, and then the way they blend everything together, it's like, they complement each other very well. Now, I know that you hear that a lot with a bunch of groups, but I think Wu-Tang is one of the ones that is very, like, they really do complement each other. And I mean, well, given, I know that Method Man and Redman in different interviews have said that they have, they actually do have writing sessions to where everybody is in one room when they're trying to write records, and they write together. So I think that has a lot to do with it. I know Snoop used to do it a lot with with some of the records that he did with Eminem. They used to sit and, I mean, not with Eminem, with oh my god, it slipped my mind. It was Snoop, Dre, and oh my god.
You'll find it. Go ahead.
Warren G.
Okay.
Warren G. They would sit down and they would bounce ideas off each other and they would write together. And what I'm saying is, when they do that, when two or multiple artists do that, you can tell that they really, as opposed to like how a lot of the artists do things now, where like now it's a rare thing when you see two artists in the same studio at the same time. Now features are like recorded remotely. Somebody's recording their verse in one studio,
Yeah.
like halfway across the country, and then that shit's done. They lay it down, they mix it, master it, and they just like email it over and shit. And then they don't even email it anymore. They do this drop shipping shit, where they have like one big drive and they just drop. And
Have you ever heard of producers holding on to like certain like verses for an artist? Like, oh, let's say they didn't want to use that verse in their album, and they'll like drop it in later on their later albums, or on like some other artists as a feature without the other artists even knowing it, you know?
yeah.
Like the Yin Yang Twins is featured on like this guy named Puya's album, and they don't even they're not knowledgeable with each other. They don't. The guy doesn't know Yin Yang, and he doesn't know the other guy.
That's I think is when you get producers trying to act like the artist or some sort of motherfucking sample box for them, and that. But man, if you're signed onto a contract, ain't much you can do to that. But I mean, if you're just letting some motherfucker use your shit like that. What? Yep. Nice, point that out on camera. Should we tell the folks what the hell I'm fucking squeezing right here?
Not really.
The little bastard got away.
I think they already know by now.
We're lousy, y'all. We're working on it. What was I gonna say, man? I was listening to some shit a while back. I enjoy a lot of Joyner Lucas's stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he had, I don't know if they still do, but he had kind of a beef going for a while with Logic because of a track, or at least his claim was because of a track that they were collaborating with Tech Nine on. And it was one of those where it's, you know, recording it in different studios, but like, you know, Tech Nine reaches out to Joyner Lucas and he's like, hey man, we're doing this track, and, you know, this dude's gonna be on it too. And he's like, oh fuck yeah, man, I'd love to do a track with Tech Nine. So he goes in, does his verse, and then Logic apparently dragged the shit out for like months. Never got him the track to the vocal track to not Tech Nine, and then like when he did drop it, it was, I guess there was the impression that it was, I don't know, man, like he just tossed it off, like it wasn't something he actually put some effort into, and like maybe he was being dismissive about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, you definitely avoid that if you're standing in the fucking same room while you're doing this shit. I mean, off the top of my head, man, one of the best examples, and they're not even, I mean, it's not even a group thing necessarily, man, but you're familiar with like the Dungeon Family?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you listen to
No, wait, no, I don't know.
Who's the Dungeon Family?
It was a bunch of artists in Atlanta that were basically all recording out of the same studio and like had kind of sharing space, man. It was kind of what's the word I'm looking for, an incubator type of situation. You got guys like Killer Mike, what was the group that Goody Mob, you know, CeeLo
The
Green.
Goody Mob, bro.
Yeah, and
I forgot about that, but a lot of people sleep on the Goody Mob, bro.
yeah, man, but Outkast, fucking
Yeah.
what's her name, Missy Elliott, just a whole shit, Bubba Sparks. There's a whole shitload of artists that kind of came out of what was kind of considered the Dungeon Family. But you listen to some of those guys talk, specifically Killer Mike, man, like, and he just nothing but praise for the whole thing, because it was a bunch of artists that were coming together, sharing space, and they were doing their own shit, but because they were all kind of motivating each other and you know, getting that feedback from one another, you had some great shit that came out of there, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is definitely something to be said about shit, even in something like comedy, man, where it gets said a lot, and sometimes in jest, sometimes in fucking straight up seriousness, man. But you know, it's a single player game. But you definitely get a bit of benefit from having those folks around you that are also pursuing their artistic goals, and you can bounce shit off of.
Are you talking about like writing collaboratively, like this?
Yeah.
As in the
Sometimes that works, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just works to like be like, look, man, Freddy's, you know, sitting in one corner with a pad doing his shit. I'm sitting in another corner with a pad doing my shit. Every once in a while, it's like, hey, bro, let me toss this line at you, see what you think. Right on. All right, back to it. You know what I mean? But if you're just gonna sit there and be a lazy asshole, it's like you got a bunch of people around you that are putting in work, and like very quickly, either that little voice in your head goes, hey, motherfucker, you should be working, or you realize maybe your ass shouldn't be there.
See, like I've heard of a lot of people that's also like it's a double-edged sword of like having too many people in the studio at the same time, and also having too many people in the studio with alcohol and drugs at the same time. Because then people get too drunk or people get too high and nothing gets done. But then you have people like Snoop and Wiz Khalifa that the higher they get, the more creative they get and the more work they get done. So I mean it's like a double-edged sword. I mean it's the same thing with collaborating with a person in person. You can sit down in a writer's room with somebody, but if that person is not at the minimal as driven as you are to like get this writing done, then that person just kind of is gonna kind of like get in your way of like you getting shit done.
Granted, you can have somebody, I mean, regardless of what you're working on collaboratively, unless they're taking up space and literally getting it in your fucking way. You know, every once in a while it's nice to have somebody in the room where it's like, hey bro, can you duck out, go get some drinks, maybe go grab some food? Like, yeah, man. You know, toss them $20, they go fucking take off, bring back some shit.
I actually, very recently, I want to say like a month ago, I sat down with somebody because I was trying to get some writing done, and I got tired of being here and writing by myself. So I met up with somebody. I'm not gonna mention who, because they actually do listen to the podcast. But anyway, we wrote literally for about 20 minutes. Oh, because this person, and they're trying to get into writing, so they were looking for me to give them tips, read their stuff. They were going to read mine, and we did exactly that for about 20 minutes or so. But after that, we just like led off into conversation that had nothing to do with what we were writing, which that's fine too, if there's gonna be like some kind of material like coming out of it. But I honestly didn't feel that anything productive came out of that meeting. Like we literally were there for 3 hours, and like nothing really came out. So I was like, all right. So I go back to what I just said 5 minutes ago. This is why I say it's you gotta be in the room with somebody that is just as driven as, at least just as driven as you about getting the writing done, so that something productive can happen. And even better would be if you were with somebody that is more driven and enthusiastic about the writing than you are, because then that's just gonna push you further. So I mean that's just the way I feel, and I've experienced it on a couple of different occasions. Back then when I used to write music or whatever, and even now that I write comedy or whatever, like I've seen it on both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, man. Then every once in a while, man, you run into a situation, especially with writers. I mean, regardless of what it is you write, whether it's lyrics, jokes, short stories, doesn't fucking matter, man. You get in that situation where, I mean, like the other person is not necessarily unmotivated, you know, like they want to write, but they kind of, like you get in the room and they look at you like, what do we do now? It's like, pull out your fucking pen, dog, start writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like once you got something, we can compare notes on this, but like there's got to be that drive.
Even if you, I figured out on my own, because I ran into it a couple of times. Writer's block. Even when you get a serious case of writer's block, I figured out that just as long as you write something, you'll get through it. Like that's the way to get through writer's block. Like, yeah, take a little break, maybe 15, 20 minutes, go outside, walk, think of something else, clear your mind, but come back and write. I mean, don't take forever either, but come back and write. But the key that I found is just keep writing. And I don't mean just like as cliche, just keep writing. I also mean like when you have nothing, like when nothing at all comes to mind, something that I can say is try putting one word on the paper and stare at that word. And I guarantee you from that one word, you're gonna, like it's gonna push you to lead into something else and continue to write or what have you. But the reason I'm pointing it out is because the worst thing that you can do when you have writer's block is to quit writing right then and there and be like, oh fuck that, I got writer's block, I'll come back and I'll continue writing tomorrow. Because then, yeah, that's not the way to go. I feel.
I think the only time you've had, well, again, speaking just from me, the only time I ever truly just walk away, like I know that I need to, put the damn thing down, walk away from it, is when your mind starts going to the frustration rather than, because it's one thing to be like the wants, like I want to write some shit right now, and you just can't come up with anything. But when you get to the point where like you go, I want to write, but fuck this and fuck that, and next thing you know, your mind's off on some other tangent. Granted, sometimes that leads to some motivation.
Yeah, and the other thing is that has also helped me, like getting through writer's block or whatever, was sometimes, like when you can't write anything, don't write it, like don't ink it or don't type it or whatever. And sometimes when you just sit back and you just start talking, just I don't know if to say start talking to yourself, but just like start talking into the air, and then like formulate whatever the idea is. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, even if you're just thinking of like the color red. It's like the color red. Okay, why is the color red? What's another color? The color yellow. Why am I thinking about colors? And then you start submerging yourself in these questions, and then if you just start, like I said, in a sense, speaking into the wind, then the ideas will start to like unravel. I've tried doing that too, and it's worked. Now, by me saying this, I'm just saying that it'll get you through writer's block so that you can begin writing. I'm not saying that this is that you're gonna write 2-3 jokes in 4 or 5 hours. You might write 2 pages of shit and no jokes may come out. But I'm just saying, like the writing part of it.
Well, we were talking before we jumped on mic about open mics, and even and beyond open mics, the idea of like running, say, new material at a paid gig, or proper gig or whatever you want to call it. Fuck it, maybe you're doing it for free, but you're on stage in front of some people that are expecting a show, and we were talking about that idea of the evolution of it, where it's like, okay, if all you have is an open mic, you go there, you run your material. Once you get to the point where you're getting stage time, then yeah, man, you take the new jokes onto the stage because those people are going to give you a better response. But you still have the open mics open to you. And you brought up, some people get up there and they just kind of, babble's not the right word, but they freestyle. They go off the top of the head, and it's not always good. Sometimes it is fucking crap. But more than a few times, man, I've gone to an open mic and just started, babbling, man. Pick an idea. The color red, fuck traffic, just something, and let the mind wander. Because one, you don't, unless you're just completely shit in the room so that the next comic who may be trying to do some shit is completely fucked. Though, as we've said, some open mic audiences are fucked from the jump, so not really much of a problem. But if you're using that time as an actual, let's say, a motivation, you're in front of some people, you got a fucking microphone, you just fucking brought up a topic, you better fucking have something to say about it, You better get creative real fucking quick. And if you're recording that shit, man, like, you can very often take that and turn it into something that is usable. Not always, man. Like you said, 2 pages and not a damn thing on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's finding those little places where you can try new shit, where you can, just explore. Because a lot of times you get up on stage and it's like, oh fuck, I better jump straight to some shit that works, because can't waste these people's time.
That happened to me on Wednesday when I was called last minute to do that one spot.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna do my regular set. I was gonna go and I was like, I'm gonna do my regular set. But then I remembered, I was like, I got that clean set that I gotta work on, which I haven't polished completely yet. I got some things I gotta like straighten out and shave down and whatever. I got the idea down, but and it like because I tested it out on that Wednesday show, I could tell that 85% of it works. So like I'm pretty happy about that. But what I'm saying is, like going along with what you were saying, I was gonna go with my regular set, and right before I got on stage, I had mentioned to somebody, I don't remember who. I think it was Carlos. I think it was Carlos that told me. I mentioned, well, I got some new things I want to work out, but I'm not too sure, so I just might stick to my own set. And he just said very simple, like I think he said it without thinking. He was like, just try some new stuff, man. I want to hear some new stuff, and we left it at that. So I was still debating or whatever. And literally, right before I got on stage, I decided, I was like, why don't I try what I'm going to try as my clean set tonight? Because, I mean, there was a good amount of people. Were you there?
No, you were telling me about running it, though, man.
Yeah, there was quite a few, people, and there were, like, more than usual is what I'm saying. So, and it looked pretty packed, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. What's the worst? I'm gonna get dead silence or booed. I'm alright with that. So I went up there and I tried it, and it worked. It worked. It worked pretty well. Another thing that I was gonna say that I've noticed, going back to the comment I made about trying it on Wednesday, was that sometimes material tends to work a lot better when you're relaxed and you don't think about it. Just like what I mean is, say it without thinking, what if they don't like it, or what if it's not funny, or what if it doesn't land. Like, don't ask yourself those questions, and just roll through it. But I mean, make sure that you have a premise in the punchline. I mean, make sure you got that down. I'm not saying riff off and create a joke right then and there. Try doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you already have a premise, you have the delivery, and you have the punchline, but maybe you haven't tried it, but you haven't. I mean, just try it, and when you're relaxed about it and you let it go, it works. I tried that with one joke on Wednesday, and it worked. It was a joke. I don't think you've ever heard it before, Sean. But I wrote this joke about my kid discovering herself in the mirror.
I want to say I heard a very early version of that joke.
Okay, well, I got it down better now. It's not that different, but the delivery is a little different, and there's little pieces here and there that are different as well. But yeah, I ran that again, and it worked. It worked enough to stand, but I still need to work on it. Basically, I got some stuff I gotta shave and whatnot, but it worked enough to stand. And I'm still debating if I should use that or on the TV show, or like not use it at all and just scrap it. I'm still working on that. But yeah, relax. Your demeanor and your delivery have a lot to.
Not just relax, but comfortable as well. Man.
Yeah, be comfortable.
One of the saddest fucking things is seeing somebody go up there and the material's there. They've got the whole joke is solid beginning to end, but they're almost hesitant about it. Like, they stick a question mark on the end of it. Like, was that funny? And it was like, dude, you gotta have. You got to be confident. There's got to be at least something in you that goes, oh no, this is funny. They're gonna like it.
Yeah, that you do make a good point with that. Like how can I say it? I've learned that even with jokes that are not funny, if you deliver them with enough confidence, you'll still get the laugh.
Yeah, that's more
like,
aggravating than sad, though.
but you have to deliver it in such a way that you have to kind of subliminally tell the audience, no, like, laugh. You're gonna laugh.
Well, cadence and intonation and all that, man. There's something to be said about that. Da 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 da. You know what I mean? Yeah, you almost have to internalize that on some level. And granted, sometimes you can tell people are just going up there and running through riffs, not necessarily with the material, but just their delivery of it. That is, they're running on autopilot.
And you know who perfected the craft of like trying the material with no fear, and I think the biggest key that has worked for him was. Because I'm really starting to believe that he's at a point where he really doesn't give a fuck. I mean, I'm pretty sure he does, but if it doesn't work, I get the feeling that he doesn't care. Dave has perfected the craft of going up there, telling you a joke, knowing that it may not be funny, but he's like, hey, I'm gonna tell you anyway, and you're still gonna laugh.
I was watching a clip from the new special, man, and one of the comments on it was.
There's a clip.
I want to say so, man. Either that or
I just saw the trailer. There's but the trailer has no jokes. It's just a trailer narrated by Morgan Freeman.
It may have been from a set that I just didn't see before, but I was pretty sure it was a special, man, because he's up there, button down shirt and shit, big stage, lots of lights. But yeah, he was standing, like, he's basically, like, just doing what he's been doing lately, which just kind of wandering around the stage, you know what I mean? Every once in a while, he'd walk up to the front, just kind of put his, like, foot up on the monitor and just kind of stand there and shit. But it was the casualness to it, and, like, not some feigned casualness. It's like, the way it was, the person commenting put it was basically, it's like Dave was just here chilling and a crowd showed up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
it's like I the way that he was able to pull off like a whole special just sitting on a stool, and it really felt like he was just talking to the crowd.
yeah,
But they yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they were you could tell that they were jokes, and you could tell that he had been working on these jokes, and like there was a premise, there was a punchline, but the way that he delivered the performance, it made you feel in a sense that he was just like, hey, like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna tell you a story basically, and then we go and take it from there.
You ever sat down and watched any of those, like, 3-4 hour, like, sets he was doing at
There's only one that I've seen all the way through. Well, I mean, there's only one that I've seen, period, because it's the only one that I found online. There's one online that is like 3 hours and 13 minutes. It's kind of hard to watch it. You would much rather listen to it. I don't know if you've seen it, because whoever the
what
fuck,
club was he doing it at?
I'm not even sure. That's what I was about to say.
New York club?
I don't know.
Okay.
The reason I'm saying is because the guy that was recording it did a horrible job. Like you can only see half of Dave. You can only see you can only see basically from like from here, from the neck up, and then when he moves forward like this, you can kind of see from the waist up, and then you can kind of see like when he moves, because he's literally sitting. There's a point in that recording where he's sitting like on the edge of the stage, and he's just pointing at people and he's talking to people, and then he asked for a cigarette, and he started smoking a cigarette. So it was a very casual, but the set is like 3 hours. Like, I think I even still remember it's like 3 hours and 13 minutes long or something like that.
Well, there might only be a few of those that you can find, but yeah, the one I watched was I want to say it was Stand Up New York, but it may have been one of the other clubs. But basically the kind of place that they're getting people coming in all night long, and he was doing like a 3 hour set, and you could tell the crowd wasn't that big, man. it was just like he popped in on a random night and was just working his shit. Same thing, sitting on the stool, smoking cigarettes, just kind of occasionally, you know, talking to the crowd. It's like, you know, hey, you give me a topic to talk about, and then just going off on it. And granted, man, for a while now, he's been playing around with that whole almost casualness to a point of like even when he's doing material that he planned to do, it seems like it's some shit that's just coming out of his head.
That's what I just said with the special that he did in the belly room at the Comedy Store. Like, that's the way that special feels. It feels like he's just really talking to them, but you could tell that these are jokes that he wrote and that he had already been working on.
Not just that, man, but if you listen to some of the comics talk about like being in the clubs when he was working out that material and going through that period a couple years back where he hadn't had a special out, but he was clearly doing the 3-hour sets and whatnot. They were talking about walking in and watching him do the same set almost the same way and still pull off like all the little things, you know, like, fuck it, I'm gonna smoke a cigarette right now. Just the little shit was built into the set in such a natural way that unless you saw him do the same thing repeatedly, it still comes off as natural, as a spur of the moment.
And then you know, another thing that I learned from Dave was that he taught me that the more of yourself that you include in your comedy act, the more chance that you have of it working. What I mean is not of yourself as in like your life. I'm not saying write a whole act about write a whole hour about your life like Kevin Hart does. That's not what I mean. What I mean, like when you give your pure, original, raw, honest perspective on whatever subject of the joke that you're saying, like you're gonna get a response. It may not be a response that they're gonna agree with you or disagree with you, but you will get like one of the first jokes that pops into my head is in one of the specials that he has out now, when he started that joke that he has about Rachel Dozer, when he said it's about that black bitch, that black white bitch that's always in the news, you know. It's like, I identify as black. That is trans talk, lady. That's well, that's what I'm saying. Like with that joke, he, like, yeah, again, it has a premise, it has a delivery, it has the punchline, but what I feel made that joke funny was that like he was really giving you like his honest like perspective on it, like his honest like feeling. When you do it, when you say a joke just because you're trying to make it funny because it sounds funny, and maybe it does, maybe it really is. I'm not saying it's not, but when you do it like that, it's just you have a bigger chance of like not getting everybody to laugh. You might get like half of the crowd to laugh, but when it's all around genuine, you have a bigger chance of getting everybody or the whole crowd or the whole room to laugh. Now, I mean, it can work both ways. If whatever you're gonna say is clearly not funny, you also run the risk of nobody laughing. And that's what happened to to Dave in Detroit. So it can happen your first 4 years in comedy or your 30th year in comedy. I mean, I've also learned that there's no exception to that rule. Like if you're gonna bomb, you're gonna bomb.
You ever listen, or have you ever come across a comic named Steve Simone?
No.
I've heard him mostly on podcasts, a little bit of a stand-up, but mostly on the podcasts, and just this ultra positive dude, man. Like one of these guys that kind of like, I guess, kind of refound his. He was a very Christian guy, man. and he kind of like rediscovered that shit being in the LA comedy scene. Like, he does fuck, we talked about it a bunch on here. This Is Not Happening.
Oh yeah.
Right. Okay. He's doing an episode of that now where he comes out and kind of talks about that. He was
He's
like,
got two.
that one, right? The second one right there, man, is the one I'm referring to.
The Voice of God, or
Yeah. And he's talking about
So it's clean comedy?
his shit now. It's very clean comedy. Yeah. I don't even think he cusses at all anymore.
No, but then that means that his topics are clean too, right?
Yeah. He's talking about like fucking being a kid and like him and his brother. He's like getting excited over like ice cream and shit like that. He talks about it in this one, but he mentions that his early jokes were the typical stuff. Oh, I've got a small penis, like fucking, makes it dating hard, that kind of shit, and like the kind of shit that like would be honest from some comics, but a lot of comics do that material because that's
That's what's up.
yeah, like they're trying to be funny. It's funny, the premise is funny, but it's not them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was talking about doing that for a long while, and then like at some point kind of coming to this awakening type of thing where he's like, nah man, I'm gonna talk about like the shit that genuinely like makes me happy and laugh and that. And then he goes on to tell this story about being in a club and doing a bit in front of some like he had some like cholos come into the club on a late night, and like he thought they were mad dogging him during the set because he's doing a joke about like pizza, and he's like, yeah, pizza, and they stand up and they're all like, yeah, pizza, and he's like, I can't tell if they're like being like sincere or like everybody's getting nervous because they can't tell if these like dudes are like genuinely like having a good time or if this is like them fucking with because they had been fucking with some comics beforehand.
Yeah.
And he says like he walks outside and like these dudes come up, he's like, hey bro, and he's like, oh shit. And they come up to him and they're like, dude, you were fucking hilarious, like like my boy here like has a joke that he wants to tell you, and like the guy comes up and he's like, dude, you remember when you were a kid and you used to play with balloons? And then like they just had like this weird moment, and it's like you only get to that place regardless of what you're doing, but I think especially in comedy, like you're saying, man, like you can only get to like that real fucking genuine shit if it's some shit that you actually feel. If it's just something that you're trying to be clever about,
Yeah.
you're not going to get that connection.
See, like with me, that's what I figured out. I mean, I have a lot of work to do. I get it. Like I know that for a fact. I have a long road ahead of me. But what I figured out early on was that that's why I'm not that type of comic. Like I'm not. If you really notice, I'm not an observational comic because I see shit. I see shit every day and I observe shit every day. But what I observe, I feel like everybody else observes it, and it's not going to be much different. Like if I say it, it's not going to be much different as in like what if Leo says it or whatever he sees it, you know what I mean? So that's the reason as to why I don't have a lot of like observational comedy. That's also why like 99% of my comedy comes from me, because it's what I know, and what has made my set funny is the fact that I'm literally, like, when you go watch me, like, it's my life on stage. And what makes it funny is the fact that, I mean, whether you want to laugh at it or not, like, this shit like really happened.
Right.
Like this really did happen to the human being that you're looking at, like, on stage or whatever. So I mean, so like that's my that's my reality, and that's what works. I mean, sometimes I do want to step outside of my comfort level and like try to see if I can write about something else or whatever, and I have tried it, but there's nothing that has struck me yet from what I've written outside of that, like, worthy of me saying, okay, I'm gonna take this to the stage, or I'm even gonna take this to an open mic. Because I'm like 95% sure that even if I take it to the open mic, it's not gonna be funny. It's gonna be one of those things to where like you're gonna hear it and you're gonna be like, okay, so where is the funny part? Like I already knew that type of thing. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I can't make it funny. It's just at the moment, I there's none of those twists and turns and the delivery and shit like that.
I get you, man. I mean, look, I'm not an observational comic necessarily myself, man, but I think one way to put it that might help somebody who's wanting to go down that route is, unless this is a genuine thought that you just would have naturally by yourself in the middle of the day, why do you think somebody else is gonna fucking, like, if you had to sit down and go like, okay, what's funny, instead of going like, you know, having like a fucking genuine like, oh, this is like that, shit, I should write that down, that's gonna resonate with somebody. That's a thought that somebody probably fucking had at some point. So you tapping into that and then making that even more funny, you know what I mean? Taking that and working off of it is going to be natural, is going to be a genuine thing. Whereas you do get a lot of people, you know, what about airplane food?
But that's what I'm telling you. Like, that's what I'm telling you. That whatever point of view you decide to deliver, like, you have to put your genuine, before you try to make it funny, you have to put your genuine feedback into it. And I feel that you have to feed that to the audience first before you try to make it funny. Because I feel that if you try to make it funny first, before like putting your genuine point of view on it, then it's when you, again, sometimes it may be funny regardless, but a lot of the times I feel that that's how you can fail in trying to deliver a joke that way. What I wanted to say was what you said right now about the observational comedy, and then you have, I was gonna say, it's a lot in like the people or what have you, because, or the comic, because there is comics, and my greatest example, I feel, that is the greatest at observational comedy outside of George Carlin, is Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh yeah.
Jerry like perfected the observational comedy craft to like the T. The fact that he can make a fucking sock funny, that is like fucking genius to me. My favorite jokes that have always resonated with me is the sock joke and the Pop-Tart. Like those. Oh, and the funeral. The biggest fear. The biggest fear, the number one biggest fear in the world is public speaking. The second biggest fear is death. And so that joke, like shit, like he got that shit down to the T.
I think if we're stretching, and it's not too much of a stretch, but I don't think most people consider it this way. Patrice O'Neal,
yeah, that's another one,
would be definitely fall into the category of observational on a lot of the shit that he was saying. He was he was just observing the shit that most people weren't going to fucking talk about. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, ladies, why you got your titties out of
See,
work?
and then the thing is that with Patrice O'Neal, the reason that it made him so funny was because the level of I don't give a fuck that he had was what made him so fucking hilarious. Like I really don't think that there was another comic that had a bigger I don't give a fuck meter than Patrice O'Neal. I don't even think. I mean, the only one that came close to it for the time that he was in was again George Carlin. But I mean, move forward from George Carlin, it was Patrice O'Neill, and then I can't think of somebody else after him. Now there's Louis, but still Louis is not.
No, part of Louis' thing was always that nervous kind of like fucking like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't be saying this.
Yeah.
Jeselnik might be a good example of like, I'm not gonna talk about the man's comedy, man. He's not necessarily my cup of tea, man, but he's definitely.
I like it, and it's edgy, but it's still like the thing with Jeselnik is that he's kind of already telling you this is dark. Like my comedy is dark. Like he's telling you beforehand. So the audience is kind of already expecting it, as opposed to Patrice O'Neill. There was no fucking warning. It was like this fucking joke about a baby dying. I'm not saying he had a joke about a baby dying, but this fucking joke about a baby dying is coming at you and you're not gonna see it, and I'm gonna say it regardless. Like there was no warning, there was no nothing. You know what I mean?
Dude, there's a great set that he did at the Comedy Store in London where he came out with like this disgusted and he did the whole thing where he came out and sat on the stool like it was the only way to put it really is he came out like disgusted about some shit. Like he had that, it was like, I already got some shit I want to talk to y'all about. Like not just like, hey folks, I got comedy. It's like, no, I got a thought for y'all particularly. You motherfuckers in this room, I got some shit to say to you. And yeah, man, it hits you right off the bat. He's talking shit about the Brits and London and all this shit. And yeah, man. It's almost like somebody coming into your house and talking smack about your fucking setup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, god damn, your couch is disgusting. And it's like, oh, motherfucker.
Yeah.
He's right, though. He's right.
Yeah, man.
Somebody standing off on the side going, dude, he's right. Your couch is disgusting.
And another thing that I've learned that I'm trying to get into, because like every other comic, I think, or maybe I don't know, maybe I'm some kind of an alien, but I've heard Mario say that he does it a lot too. But because I study a lot of comedy. Like I basically now, especially since I've had no cable, like that's all I watch. Like I just watch different kind of comedy, different comics, but I don't watch them like to. I study the material, but like not to memorize it and take it and steal it and make it my own or anything like that. I study like their delivery, their why are they setting it up like that? What is he talking about? What is the point across that he's trying to get with that joke and so on and so forth. So what I'm getting at is like the other thing that I've learned from Dave is that he's also very effective because he, to a lot of his jokes, given like every other comic, there's jokes that he's just telling you so that you can laugh. Like that's the point. But through a lot of his jokes as well, like he has a point. Like other than making you laugh, like they have a point. They have a purpose, whether it be social justice or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? Like with I'm not gonna repeat the whole joke verbatim, but like when he was trying to make the point about like the Mexicans and the Muslims not being the problem in the country, you know, he made a great joke about it, but the point that he was trying to get across was that like, hey, stupid, it's not the Muslims and it's not the Mexicans causing the issues. You know what I mean? Like what I'm saying is, that's the other thing that I'm trying to learn, and I would like to get to that point in my comedy career to where like when I want to write jokes and I want to tell you these jokes, but I want to start putting a real meaning behind what I'm telling you. But if I understand that if I do that, I need to make sure that I don't forget that what I'm telling you is to make you laugh first and foremost.
Art first, and don't let it become propaganda.
Exactly. And then my point like behind it. So then like that, if I gain the respect of the audience or the people, whether you agree with me or not, you'll laugh. You know, we can laugh together.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to agree with me. But and just going along with the same token of like, if you don't agree with me, it doesn't mean that I don't like you. You know what I mean? Then you don't like me because I don't agree with you. I mean, we can still be friends and have disagreements.
I'm a fan of, I don't know if fan's the right word, but Bill Hicks, man. And I think we've briefly talked about Hicks before, man. And Hicks is one of those guys that more often than not, I've shown his stuff to somebody and had them go, I don't think he's funny. It's like, all right, man, that's
cool. Well, because you have to...
Well, not just that, but he spent a long time, I mean, literally not giving a fuck whether or not the audience was enjoying themselves. He was up there saying shit that he wanted to say.
Yeah.
And it was, you can actually see, like, towards the end of his career, he kind of, at some point, remembered, like, oh, shit, I got to bring you all along with me. I can't just be out here playing by myself. You know what I mean? This is just masturbatory.
Or he was like, oh, shit, I forgot I was supposed to make you laugh.
Well, look, man, if you're already on board with him, there's a lot of shit that is funny. It's a great example, I think this is specifically what we've talked about, is that set that he did in Montreal where he came out and was doing the whole bit about making pop stars suck Satan's cock. And just 5 minutes almost of, like, holy fuck, he's just on stage going for it. And if you're on board, there's a lot of, I mean, it's just evil humor, man. But if you're not, he left you at the door, man. Like, I would feel bad for anybody who just, like, randomly walked into that shit and didn't know what the fuck it was. Yeah, man, look, there's some of my favorite sets have been from comics who, it's not a good way to do it, but goddamn, it does produce some great moments when a comic goes on stage pissed off or frustrated about something, but in a genuinely, like, meaningful way. Like, you know, something happened to them in their personal life and they just take that shit on stage and start throwing fire at the audience, man. And fuck, that's fun to be in the room for, man. Like, you remember those fucking sets, but you can't maintain that. That's not a foundation to build your career or your art on. But in the moment, I mean, dude, there have been sets where I've been in the room and then, like, looked around going, fuck, I hope somebody recorded this, because that was fucking great.
Also, the other thing that I was thinking about the other day that I was writing, there's a lot of bits that you write where I figured out that the mistake that I was making, that the reason that joke was not funny, is because I think that bit, when I wrote it, had to have a certain emotion behind it in order for it to be funny. Like, for example, I had to be angry. I had to deliver that joke angry so that joke could get the laugh. Like, there's got to be certain emotions to certain bits that you write so that they could actually be funny. Because if the joke's supposed to come from an angry place but you don't have the emotion behind it, more than likely you're not going to get the reaction that you're trying to get.
And I think the only way to move forward with that kind of material is have it written in such a way that you basically piss yourself off as you're getting into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have the details in there. Have what's the word I'm looking for here? Kind of the primer jokes in there where you're touching the material and you're building yourself up to that point. Either that, or you got to be a great fucking actor, which not everybody is.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes was from Joey Diaz, man, where he said this several different ways and on several different occasions about getting himself pissed off before he goes on stage, like just finding something to be fucking mad about. You know, the fuck you got cheese in the green room, dog? I don't want fucking cheese in the, you know, just picking a fight with somebody on the fucking staff, you know, just something to just kick him off. And granted, also not something you want to do long term. And if you listen to Diaz now, man, like motherfucker's mellowed out a little bit. You know what I mean? He's in his
little bit, but not a lot.
I'm not saying he's
with you saying that, it brings me back to a joke that he had said recently. I love his bit about the word faggot. And like I said, it was one of those jokes where, like, when he was saying it didn't even feel like he was telling you a joke. It was like he was just giving you his joke, his genuine perspective on it. Like he, and again, I'm gonna butcher the shit out of the joke just to get to the point. But he said, yeah, he was one of those, you know, like a faggot, you know what I mean? But people, I mean, shit, like, oh, like, y'all want to get, you know, offended because I said faggot. He's like, I grew up saying that word, and I grew up on that word. I'm not going to change my vocabulary just because now y'all got your panties up in a bunch. I mean, look, if you're gay or whatever, if you like men, that's up to you, and as long as you're happy, and it's fine. But I'm not going to stop saying the word faggot. I mean, but going back to, like, the emotion, like, he delivered that premise and that joke with a lot of anger behind it. And then he eased up on it to deliver the punchline. And that's what made that joke laugh. I mean, that's what made that joke funny. And I was laughing, dude. I was laughing really hard the first time I heard the joke. Second and third time, they would still make me chuckle. But the first joke, the first time I heard it, I was laughing really hard. But and it was also because it was the way that I feel about the word too.
Dude, one of my favorite little interactions that he had was on him and Rogan were doing Alex Jones' show back in 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever watched InfoWars, but like they do. I don't even know if they do the.
I've seen it once or twice at the most, and to be honest with you, man, like I got annoyed.
Yeah.
I
haven't been able to get into the Jones shows in like 10 years, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm not gonna lie, man. I can only listen to Alex Jones for about maybe 10 minutes tops.
Especially when he starts trying to sell you fucking soap and fucking survivance. Like, Jesus, man. These condoms are good for the apocalypse. And you're like, all right, fine, Alex.
Did you guys watch, like, John Oliver? Did you guys see his special on the John Oliver special on Alex Jones? Did you guys see that?
Wait, what?
He did this on This Week Tonight, or?
Yeah, he talked about InfoWars. This was like a little bit, like maybe weeks before InfoWars went like off air.
By the way, InfoWars is not off air. They're just off of major platforms.
Yeah. Well,
they host their own shit. I mean, look, you can hate Jones all you want, man, but he built his motherfucking empire.
I'm pretty sure he's still making money.
Fuck yeah, man.
there's people
They'll be fine.
that are still supporting him.
Yeah.
I don't know specifically the segment you're talking about, but I've definitely heard Oliver talk about Jones before. I hate to say it, man, because I really do enjoy John Oliver as not only a commentator but as a comedian. Like some of his specials are just.
I do.
Have you listened to his podcast? He has a podcast.
No.
He has a podcast with a friend of his, another British comedian friend of his.
What comic?
Hold on, let me pull it up. I listened to it, but they post like maybe
Like
4 episodes a year.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey man, that's one way to do it, man. But I was gonna say, man, is like I have a little bit of trouble.
The Bugle.
Bugle?
Yeah.
Who's the other comic?
Andy Zaltzman. Well, I guess it's now just him.
Okay. No, I haven't heard the. Haven't even heard of the other dude.
Andy Zaltzman. He looks kind of like that. He's just a bald guy with the sides growing out.
Okay.
I'll show you a picture of it right now.
Now, if anybody listening to this is not expanding out, if you dig stand-up comedy and you're not expanding out into some of the UK comics and even some of the like the Australians, man, like they got some. Well, even Canadians, man. Like some of the Canadians are a little bit too tame for my taste, but I have seen that dude before. I do not know where. Not just because he looks like Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done a couple movies, like UK wise. Like, not that many.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess it's just him now. But yeah, the main reason why they were only doing a couple a year was because John Oliver would take breaks to go back to the UK from this week tonight. Pretty cool.
But yeah, and there's some solid comics out there if you're not. Expand your horizons, people. Actually, it was Rudy that kind of turned me onto this, man. If you can either A, watch stand-up comedy with subtitles on, or B, your Spanish is good enough to follow it, there's some motherfuckers coming out of Mexico right now that are solid as fuck.
Fuck yeah, bro. I was just talking about that this past week. There's this comic that I think I told you last week, Sean. There's this comic that's coming to the McAllen Theater of Arts or whatever it's called. Alan Saldaña. That dude is I think he's funny. But then again, like you said, like he's funny to me because I understand Spanish very well.
Right.
So and then a lot of the shit that he talks about also like resonates with me. But what I feel that makes him the funniest is his delivery. His delivery and his mannerisms. His Netflix special, dude, was what like turned me on to him. Like it was like his Netflix special was solid, dude. I enjoyed it a lot, and that's how I discovered him. I discovered him through the Netflix special.
I'll check it out.
Because I was looking for another comic to get into, but I was like, fuck these English comics. Like I want to listen to something else in another language. Then I found a French one, and the subtitles were too fast for me. I was like, fuck that. And then his came up, so I clicked on that one. And then there's another one. There's another one that I came across that another comic that I really enjoyed a lot too, because his comedy is really dark, but his delivery about his dark comedy is very relaxed and it's very calm, and I think that's fucking hilarious. Like he has like 3 abortion jokes back to back, and it's in Spanish.
Right.
You know what I mean? His name is Carlos Vallarta. Carlos Vallarta, and like he's very, and then he has this. I'm pretty sure you know Leo. He has a very. I don't know if you know what it is, Sean, but he has a. They call it a Chilango accent, like people from the city of Mexico, and the federal district. That's him.
Yeah, I remember this guy.
Oh yeah. This is actually the dude that Rudy used as an example. The kind of Rudy Barber, by the way, hilarious local comic. Go check the dude out. But yeah, he was showing me this dude's special, man. Like, yeah, I know what you mean about that. Just real, like, it's like he smoked just a little bit too much before he got on stage.
He's just that Slayer font to promote his special. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and what I feel that makes him, like I said, like really funny, is the fact that his delivery is very calm, but it's really fucking dark, dude. Like it's like I said, he has in one of the specials, he has 3 abortion jokes back to back, and he ends it with a I'm sorry. He started the joke with a rape joke, and he ends He ends it with 3 abortion jokes back to back. So it was, but it's funny though. Again, I have a fucked up sense of humor. I get it, but it's funny. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, actually, man, the only thing that's kept me from getting into more of the Mexican comics is there is a tendency for some of the Spanish language comics to do.
His girlfriend's hot too. She's fucking like delicious hot.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, look it up, bro. She's
right. The slang and like the linguistic jokes. You know what I mean? It's wordplay, and my Spanish is not. It doesn't come through in the subtitles, and my Spanish is not solid enough to get the intricacies of it. You know what I mean? The cleverness just disappears when you're trying to translate some of that shit. But like some of these guys are doing like straight stand-up at this point, where it's like, no, this is all of the information you need to understand how funny this shit is in the fucking material. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's expand your horizons, people. Listen to other folks. I was trying to listen to some Hindi comics at one point, man, that like, and the only reason I tried to was because they were doing like half the set in English. It was almost like listening to Tex-Mex, man. Like most of it was in English, but every once in a while they'd slip into like Hindi, and it's like, yeah, man, that just kind of kills the momentum right there when you don't know what the fuck they're saying.
Yeah. I was listening to I think it was a French comic, and I was trying to read the subtitles, but they were just too fast, and I was like, oh fuck that.
Actually, the funny thing is, man, there's a lot of comics from France, at least, or at least more than a handful that I've heard about and come across that were doing their set in France in French, and were not getting the appreciation, and they made the switch over to the UK and immediately picked it up because their shit was solid, but they weren't catering to the French crowds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then you get that whole shit where there was a slew of them, and apparently they do it up in Quebec as well.
It's like here we experience that here of all places. Like,
oh yeah, you filter it out because you automatically recognize the bullshit, and you go, fuck that.
Well, no, not only that. No, that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like here sometimes you'll run into that wall where if you don't cater to your audience,
okay,
like you'll hit a brick wall, like, you know what I mean? So like here, unfortunately in the valley, fortunately and unfortunately, like they love to hear valley humor. But then I also see that it's also big, and I'm not shitting on the valley. I love the valley to death. I would never leave it forever. I do. I love where I come from, all that shit. But because the valley is also very secluded, and a lot of people that live here don't really know and understand that there's a huge world outside of the valley. Like when it comes to comedy too, like that's why they want to hear a lot of valley humor, because it's what they understand and it's what they can relate to. That's what you run into a lot into some of our culture, like our Latino and Mexican culture. If it's not Mexicanized, if it's not, like, I'm not saying they won't get it, they just won't find the humor in it because it's not something that I can relate to it. And I don't like that. I mean, I feel that if you're really going to appreciate comedy, you should appreciate it for what it is and for what it is and for what it's being delivered to you.
There's only so much frustration you can have in an audience.
That's
they
why.
Want what they want.
Yeah, but that's why this is where I was gonna kind of go the other way. That's something that I can appreciate about performing in front of a white audience, because you have a better chance of getting laughs with a white audience talking about anything. Like your premise and your subject matter is a lot more. There's a lot more leeway for it with a white audience. And I'm not gonna sit here and again shit on anybody and say, because normally like a white audience is a lot smarter than other people, or they catch and pick up things, so on and so forth.
I'll give you a bit of a counter example of that, man. Is I got to do a guest spot in San Antonio a while back, and most of the comics, I take that back. All of the comics except for myself were Mexican comics and or Latino, whatever you want to call it. They were San Antonio, is what the fuck they were, man. Which is its own special breed. And the crowd was fairly mixed, man. And for the most part, when like either some Spanish got thrown in or like a cultural joke got thrown in, everybody was on board. But every once in a while, you'd see somebody in the crowd with just that I have no fucking clue what's going on look on their face. And actually, after the show, it was one of those like, oh, thanks, and oh, fuck type of things, man, where a guy came up after me and he was like, yeah, man, I really enjoyed your set, like, funny, all that shit, and yeah, man, I don't know, they start talking in Spanish, I don't know what the fuck is going on, and it's like, dude, you live in San Antonio, what? And then the guy told me he was from New York, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I was like, yeah, bro, okay, I get you. Yeah, man, you're gonna run into that shit a lot. I was listening to something just the other day, couple headliners talking about going up on stage after a local comic, like their opener would be a local dude, and they go up there and they're throwing down all the local references and it's just 100% catering, and then they have to go up and it's like, fuck, dude, never mind. I might as well not even go out there, man, because this is like they're already primed for one thing. And granted, a lot of that's probably in the performer's head.
Now that's also the gamble that you have. I mean, but I'm pretty sure, like, my experience is limited, but I'm pretty sure that with like comics that have their own audience, like for example, Joe Rogan is a huge comic. He's been doing it for 30 years. Dave Chappelle is a huge comic. He's been doing it for 30 years. Joey Diaz is not as big as either one of them, but he's been doing it for a long time. The reason I bring these three up is because these three comics have been doing it for some time, but they have three very different and diverse audiences. Every audience is like they like Joey. Dave's audience likes Dave. Rogan's audience likes Rogan. My point is that if you put these three comics on one stage and just one big ass audience, but you don't tell the audience, or the audience doesn't know that they're gonna get these three diverse comics. Mm-hmm. When Joey goes out, he might not get all the laughs. Right. When Rogan goes out, he might not get all the laughs. When Dave, same thing. My point is that even like when the comic is out of his element and does not perform, is not performing for his audience, that's one of the most challenging like tasks, to win over that audience, because they're not necessarily your audience. So this is where you show, I like I said, I'm very limited on experience, but I think that that's where you show your experience as a comic, to figure out, okay, how can I make this audience laugh the most, regardless if they're my audience or not.
Well, you can get some, or you can find some clips of at least Joey talking about going to, and Rogan too, now that I think about it, and I'm sure Chappelle has had very similar experiences, but Diaz was specifically talking about going to the Comedy Store to do workout sets, and it's 12, 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, or maybe not that late, 10 o'clock, whatever. Point being is he's walking in there on a random crowd. These are people that just walked into the club, paid their $20, and they're just there to see comedy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And having a rough time of it because they don't know what the fuck to make of this motherfucker.
Yeah.
But one statement from Rogan that I have much respect for is him talking about the people that he chooses to take on the road for him, his openers and shit. He's like, look, man, I'm not trying to take somebody that complements my style or that I think my crowd is gonna like. I take killers. I take people who are fucking funny. You know what I mean? Like he travels with Tony Hinchcliffe, and at least he was for a while. Okay. Hinchcliffe's probably got his own shit going on by now, but yeah, man, that dude is like almost 180 degrees from like Joe as far as like material and delivery and just the type of humor that he's got. But he's fucking funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. There is definitely a.
It went out.
It didn't go out necessarily, Matt. Make sure we got audio on all the video tracks.
It froze?
Fucking card was filled up. I thought I fucking checked that. Hey, folks, we are not perfectionists.
Yeah, it's recording on all of them.
All right, cool. If we got audio, it's not a problem. It's a little bit behind the scenes technical shit right there, y'all. We are not a professional studio. At least not until y'all start paying us. T-shirts coming soon.
For the hefty donation of 50 cents a day, you can feed this podcast. Cue Sarah McLachlan music.
This boy right here is hungry. Why don't you feed him?
Very fucking hungry. And then.
Well, man, there's that. There's probably a story that if you dig into comedy as an art form, you probably come across this statement a couple of times. Is the idea that there are people out there who they don't just want to like curate or cultivate their own shit, but they almost want to like build the thing around them. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm gonna bring this guy because he's funny, but he's not as funny as me, or again, he complements my style, but he doesn't step on my shit. And it's like, man, you can't be too precious about this shit.
Yeah.
Like that whole idea of like, oh man, granted, a comic can go on stage and burn out a crowd. Not in a, oh my God, they were laughing so hard that there's no way they could laugh at something else, but in a, Jesus Christ, we're just gonna go home because this is horrible type of shit.
Yeah.
But it's got to be really fucking bad for that to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And more often than not, when it gets to that point, that's when a host should step in and be like, I know we told you 10 minutes, but you're doing 4. Get the fuck off the stage.
I just recently, it's funny that you say that, just very recently, I want to say a week ago, that guy that's been trying to book me in Nebraska, he's still trying to get me up there in November. I don't know the likelihood of that happening or what have you. But anyway, a week ago, he booked this show, and he booked 2 comics, an opener and a feature, and he was headlining. And he said that it had never happened where both of them, the opener and the feature, bombed completely. But he said like horribly, like he didn't even think that a bomb like that could happen. Like the crowd was just silent. He's like, I'm at least glad that the crowd wasn't disrespectful and like started like yelling shit.
That's where the turn happens, man, where it goes from silence to all of a sudden they want to let you know how fucking mad they are at you.
Yeah, they were just, and then you like, he was like, I heard some people like clapping in the back, trying to like kind of get the rest of the audience, but that wasn't working. So he was like, and I was like, what did you do, bro? He was like, I actually pulled the opener off 5 minutes early, which he only did 5 minutes, because I had already asked the feature if he could extend it at 5 minutes, and he was like, yeah, sure, bro, I got you. So then I sent the feature up. Horrible. Like, he was just as bad as the opener. And I had to pull the feature off 10 minutes early. So I ended up doing an hour and like 15-minute or 20-minute set. I was able to get the crowd back, but he's like, I think that what helped me is that the people that were there to watch were there to watch me because they knew that I was the one headlining the show. So that helped me a lot. But he's like, I had never had a show where like the opener and the feature bombed horribly. And then we ended that conversation with, so I hope that you're better than that, because I can't go through that shit again.
Don't you make me do it, Freddy.
Yeah. So then I was like, nah, man, I'll send you my highlight reel if you want to check it out beforehand. I would much rather you check it out beforehand, like that we know what we both are getting into.
Yeah, man. Like as we have both pointed out before, man, everybody bombs, but I'm very grateful, and I take it as a good fucking sign that nobody has ever pulled me off stage early.
Yeah, me too. I've never been pulled off stage, but I've bombed the way they did. I bombed exactly the same.
Oh yeah.
Like I got one line. One of the times, because twice I bombed that way, but one of the times, right before I left, I was able to get a couple of laughs, and that's when I told you that I did that stupid shit. Throughout my whole set, nobody laughed, and I felt like somebody was pranking me. I literally felt like somebody went up there. They were like, "Hey, this dude's coming up. Whatever he says, don't laugh." I literally, that's how I felt. You know what I'm saying? So I went up there, did my whole set. Nobody laughed. And I was like, what the fuck, y'all? Like y'all, I'm gonna be up here, y'all gonna act like none of this shit is funny, y'all even need to give me one laugh. And I was like, what the fuck y'all want me to do? Like some knock-knock jokes? And I literally did a knock-knock joke, and they laughed at that shit. So, I mean, they genuinely laughed at that.
Wow.
And then I got off stage, and I even told them, I was like, see, I knew y'all were gonna laugh at some ignorant shit like that. I'm trying to like give you some real good shit here, and y'all gonna laugh at this ignorant shit. I'm out anyway. My time was out, so like I walked off. But nobody signaled me like to be like, hey bro, you need to get off or whatever. But yeah, I've bombed twice, just as bad as that.
Now on the flip side, I have had a host leave my ass up there for way longer. Like I'm looking into the crowd going, motherfucker, flash the goddamn light, man. This is, I mean, not like fucking, you know, hey, pull me off early, but like, yeah, you're not paying attention, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Hey man, it happens, man. I think I was telling you about that set I did in Corpus one time where I was the first comic up on stage, just doing a guest spot, man. And they didn't tell me that they were doing it round robin. So I started to eat dick and then just proceeded to eat dick for way longer than I should have until one of the host came running out of the back and was giving me the like, get the fuck off. It's like, Jesus, thank you. Just do that faster next time, god damn it. I mean, round robin can be a fucking fun and makes for a very like quick paced fucking show, but sometimes, man, you gotta have everybody aware of what the fuck is going on, and you know, have their set down. You know.
Yeah.
You don't just throw somebody up there and be like, hey, be funny for 5 minutes exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it was just again like what we were talking about earlier. I just feel that it's I guess that's where your like the experience as a comic also has to come into play. Of like I really feel, and I'm not saying me, because I'm far from that, but I really do feel that if you really are a good seasoned experienced comic, I do feel that you can and you will figure out a way to get out of your box. You know what I'm saying? I do feel that you will figure out how to step out of it. Even if it's shitting on the whole city for the rest of your set while you're up there. I mean, if that works, so be it, man. You did it. But,
I have only once gotten off stage and had somebody come up to me afterwards and was like, hey man, I didn't like that joke that you said. It was a tiny little cowboy dude too, man. It was hilarious because I'm standing around next to a motherfucker that's like fucking 6'3" and like a couple other comics, and it's like, dude, if you want to pick a fight right now, you are going to lose badly.
yeah. No, I was referring to that even if you decide to shit on the whole city because of that time that Bill Burr.
Yeah, that was a special case, man. Even he has some. You can go find interviews with him where he basically goes, yeah, I understand. It was the whole thing was a bad idea. They had these people sitting out there all afternoon, and it was an outdoor arena type of setup. They've been drinking all day. It's a Philly crowd, yada yada. Like it was that was a special kind of fuck up right there, man.
Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, the thing that set him off was that they booed Dom Irrera. And it's like, how the fuck are you gonna boo Dom Irrera, you fucking, And if you have not seen Bill Burr going off on the city of Philadelphia, please do. Just go watch that shit. It's 9 minutes? Am I wrong on that?
But I don't remember if it's 9 or 12 minutes.
But yeah, he's
no more than 12 minutes.
That whole thing where he's checking in, he goes, what, I got 5 more minutes? All right, let's go. Your fucking basketball team. And just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, man. He completely went off on
a whole fucking city.
Yeah, on a whole fucking city.
We're 2 minutes. We're 2 minutes to the 1:30 mark.
1:30. Yeah, we just a heads up. We might for the audience and people watching and listening, we might plug a little early. Not the usual 2 hours and 10 minutes. Just throwing it out there so that we don't
lower the expectations.
So that we don't. Well, good night, folks. Or how does Elmo Fudd do it on the? I know you know, motherfucker. How do you?
Yeah.
Do it! I was waiting for you to do it.
What was it? Good day, folks.
No, it's
Porky Pig.
That was Porky Pig. I don't know.
That's all, folks.
There you go. It's that one.
That's Porky
Out
Pig.
of all the fucking people, Sean got it.
Yeah, man. You looked at me. You like if I was gonna come on cue and be like, hey.
Yeah, because I thought you were.
If we would have had a soundboard, that would have come real good in handy.
Are those expensive?
Soundboards? We can make a soundboard out of one of the computers. Just queue up sounds with I think a web application, but that's nerd talk.
Do you know how to do it or no?
I could look it up, but that's nerd talk. We'll talk
No, do you know how to do it?
A soundboard?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I could pull one up. I have GarageBand.
Oh, okay.
Just sync the audio
that's
files.
where I was.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. You know what? Maybe we should. We should do that.
Hey, I'll tell you what. If any of y'all want to leave us some sound clips, and nothing too retarded. I'm assuming it's going to be mildly mentally damaged.
We're gonna put Sonia's ass in.
Yeah.
I keep waiting for the clip, motherfucker.
Dude,
I got a ringtone that needs to be.
Yeah. No. That's my idea. The ringtone idea was my idea. I wanted that ringtone for her contact.
But what I was going to say was, you can. I think Facebook will let you leave voice messages. So if you're listening to this and you think you got something clever, leave us something and we'll judge the shit out of you.
Pretty much. I was going somewhere with Philadelphia.
Straight to hell. Fuck. Talking about the Bill Burr set specifically?
Yeah. No. Well, kind of. But, climbing out of the bottom, I went blank. But I was going somewhere.
Well,
Can you write Spanish?
No, fuck no. I mean, I can dictate Spanish, but I can take dictation in Spanish, but I can't write Spanish now.
Would you be able to like speak into a recorder in Spanish? I don't care if it's broken up or not.
Oh yeah, no, my pronunciation is fucking great.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking is, have you ever thought about working on a joke in Spanish? Because the reason I'm asking is because I think that if you were to just say 2 jokes in Spanish, the fact that you're saying them is hilarious enough. I think you should try it.
I know at one point, and I cannot for the life of me recall what the bit was, but I did have a joke that had some Spanish in it, and it was specifically kind of not like, oh fuck, I'll cater to the crowd, but it was that, yeah, I'm from South Texas, motherfucker, kind of shit. And it got a decent enough response, but I guess I just wasn't into the joke enough to keep it around. You know how that goes, man.
Yeah.
It's like keeping a penny in your pocket. Sure, it's worth 1 cent, but that ain't enough to fucking waste my time with. But I see what you're saying. I don't know if I would ever get around to it, but hey, you never know, man. I've been trying to work on my Spanish for years.
There was, and I thought this was genius, and I thought back then it was even more so genius because I had never seen anybody do it. But when I was in LA, like I used to go watch people perform at open mics and shit like that too. There was this girl. She was very, 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 very dark skinned, that you could say. I thought she was like black. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I met her, whatever, and she was funny, right? So the first thing that I noticed the first time that I watched her set, because she had a 30-minute set. The reason I'm pointing out that she had a 30-minute set was because when she started her set, she started her set like every other set. You start telling your jokes there in what you think your native, or what I thought her native language is, which is English, right? Mm-hmm. And you look at her and she looks black. So she starts going through her set. So she says her jokes in English, and they're funny. They're hilarious. I think they're funny. So people are laughing. And then within her set, she worked it to where she goes into the second part of her set, and the one of the jokes plays off. It sucks. Because of course I don't remember the joke, but one of the jokes plays off her saying that she's people basically don't know. People make fun of me or something like that because they think that I don't know Spanish. She doesn't say that. She doesn't say that she doesn't know Spanish. But what I thought was really clever is her whole second part of her bit, her act, is in Spanish. And then she starts explaining in Spanish that she's not really black, that she's Cuban. So she's like, and people in Spanish, right? She was like, people don't know that I'm Cuban. So she's like, I love hearing white people, I love hearing like Latino and Mexican people talk about me because they feel that I don't understand what they're saying. And then I bust out, boy, if you only knew that I speak Spanish and I understand everything you just said. But her whole second set, part of her set is all in Spanish, and just the way that she weaved that shit together was just beautiful. But yeah, which gave me the idea of like it would be nice to have a weaved set from English to Spanish. Or not just that. I mean, if you're fluent in any two fucking languages, just make sure that your fucking audience understands both. Then it would be awesome. I'm not saying I'm gonna do any of that soon, but I'm also not saying that. What I am saying is that would be an interesting thing to actually explore.
If you've never had the chance to see somebody who is like efficiently like multilingual do a set in, well, English would be what I'm specifically referring to, but I got a chance to watch a comic from Mexico City who, first of all, if you don't know, they speak the Spanish is not exactly the same in Mexico City as it would be in the rest of the country, just because they have much more of the Castilian.
Yeah, we were talking about the
like the Chilango slang and
It's also the way it's structured, like the way it's actually spoken, because that was the thing that struck me. I mean, aside from the fact that dude was fucking hilarious, man, the thing that struck me was even as he was doing the set in English, the word choice and the way what he was saying actually flowed, like the Spanish influence came through, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't accent, it was actual structure of the material that, like, I found that fucking fascinating, man.
Yeah.
And of course, like I said, dude was fucking hilarious, so that fucking helped a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I just think that that's a different way of like putting a twist of creativity to your act. Now, if you don't fucking know fluently two different languages, then definitely it's not something you wanna try. But I'm just saying, as far as the creativity, that is something.
That was funny, man. I saw somebody had posted up a flyer for a show a while back, and it was like a Latino comedy night. And one of the guys they had on there his name is not like Spanish at all, and he looks like a white dude. I mean, he's Caucasian, but like he looks like fucking like your typical American fat dad type of shit. And somebody was like made like a comment underneath where it was like this dude. And the part that cracked me up was, like, I know for a fact that dude tours in Mexico. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, bro. Like, yeah, we get a little hung up on some of that shit sometimes, man. But there is something to be said for the place that we're at. I mean, like, as you pointed out, man, there are a lot of folks that don't get out of their own fucking hometown, and they're ignorant. I mean, that's not even said meanly. They're ignorant.
Yeah.
But because of the fact that we are in that crossroads place between the South Texas U.S. culture and like the northern Mexico, it's got a flavor to it, man. I mean, there are a lot of people that talk about coming down here and getting responses from the crowd that they don't get in other places. That they're not from here. You know what I mean? They're not throwing out the local references.
We're 2 minutes away from 140.
Okay.
Gotcha.
He said we might pull the shoot early. Don't rush him. Don't rush him, Liam.
No.
He's back.
Okay. 45 sounds good though.
Colt 45 and 2 zigzags.
That actually sounds good too. Shit.
See.
Just the zigzags?
You said at one point you weren't a fan of that pronoun, man.
No.
No, I was just thinking of what you actually said. Colt 45, and I don't think I've even seen a Colt 45 in a couple years.
Yeah.
Since I came back from California.
Dude, you got to go to the right store to even find an E&J.
Well, yeah, man. When was the last time I saw an E&J?
I don't think I've seen a Mickey's in a minute.
Oh, man, they have them right here.
True. Okay.
Yeah. No, but the Colt 45 for sure, I don't think I've seen since I've been back from California. They have those everywhere in California. The Mickeys they have here. That's what I was remembering. Because when I was in California, it's all the time. Dude, with the girl that I was dating, her brother. Like, hey Fred, let's go to the store. We're going to get some OEs. The fuck is an OE? It's like Old English, man. I was like, oh shit, okay. Alright. I never liked
OE, that's what I was thinking of, not ENJ.
Oh, okay.
ENJ, also down there on the quality scale, but a little
Yeah,
easier.
very down there. You can get a fish for like $11, I think.
Shit, I get a bottle of vodka for $11.
Yeah, but vodka's vodka. Have you ever drank vodka that tastes like concentrated tap water?
Concentrated tap water.
Yeah, like
I know what you mean, though. I've never tasted. I've tasted vodka. I've drank vodka to a point where it tastes concentrated.
no, that's not what. Well,
I've drank vodka that tastes almost as smooth as water.
no,
But you
that's
mean
not
that,
what I mean.
that back end flavor of like
No,
chemical-
okay, well let's see if I
Explain
can.
yourself.
Yeah, let me see if I can simplify this down. Like for example, if you get a cup right now and you get water out of the tap, it tastes like that, but stronger. And I don't mean stronger as in alcohol volume. I mean taste stronger. Like it really tastes like tap water basically. It tastes like tap water with alcohol.
Like maybe if you like took a cup of water and like let it sit overnight, so it's like evaporated
Something like that.
a little bit. Okay.
Cause I had, and it's not because I'm trying to hide it or whatever. I really don't remember the name of the vodka, but I do remember having some vodka and I was drinking it straight, and it tasted like fucking tap water. And I was like, I hope you didn't pay no more than $15 for this vodka. If you paid more than, even if you paid 15, it's too expensive.
Wait, you mean it's weak?
Yeah, maybe it's just because it tasted like shit.
Oh,
It
okay.
tasted like fucking tap water with alcohol.
Okay, because you do realize that like a compliment for vodka would be saying that it goes down like water.
No, but that's not what I'm saying.
Okay. All
And
right.
that didn't go down like water. It was rough, but it tasted like.
Actually, the problem I run into more often than not is it tastes like fucking diluted shoe polish. Almost like it's got like that.
Well, goddamn, Sean, where the fuck were you sipping shoe polish? Is what the fuck I want to
But
know.
like the way it smells, like the like that chemical smell that you get off of like not just shoe polish, but like paint remover or like fucking nail polish, even like just that it's the word I'm looking for here. Not corrosive necessarily, but yeah, chemical. Like I've definitely taken a mouthful of fucking vodka and regretted it just because it was god awful garbage.
Yeah, I like to this day, like I've mentioned before, the smoothest I've ever tasted has been Belvedere. I've heard, I didn't get around to taste it because I've been sober for almost 9 years now, and it wasn't around when I was drinking. But I've heard that Ciroc has taken the crown as far as smoothness. I don't know about taste, but smoothness. They say Ciroc's real smooth. I don't know if it's true or not.
I'm extremely glad, not just because I'm a Texas boy and I like to show my pride every once in a while, but Texas, the in-state made vodka like Dripping Springs and Tito's, and there's at least one other that is not coming to mind right now, but just beautiful vodkas, man. Like Dripping Springs is just delicious if you ever get an opportunity. And yeah, man. I mean, there was like that little hesitation, at least in my mind, of okay, this is it's Texas vodka, that's their selling point, and this is going to be some half-assed garbage. But surprisingly, a lot of the small distillers here in the state do an excellent job with what they're doing. I've yet to come across a whiskey that I really enjoy, but there's some great vodka out there.
You gotta. I don't understand why you don't like Maker's Mark.
Maker's Mark is Kentucky. I mean, it's not Kentucky whiskey, but it's a whiskey made in Kentucky.
So wait, what was your? I didn't.
A Texas whiskey.
Oh, okay, a Texas whiskey.
I've yet to come across a Texas whiskey that.
I thought you meant whiskey and just.
Oh no, motherfucker! I'll name you some brands.
The reason I mentioned Maker's Mark is because that bitch is smooth. It's really smooth, and it'll hit you. And it's a sneaky one too. You feel like you good, but then try to get up off the chair and.
Oh, dude, I had a real treat last night. I almost forgot about it, man. I was hanging out with some friends, and buddy pulls out 50-year-old Glenlivet. God damn, it was good. And I'd started off on tequila too, and I just made the switch. I was like, fuck it, this is what we're doing now, man. I regret nothing. Woke up feeling great.
Well, with tequilas, vodka, and I'm missing one.
Comedy.
No, I'm missing a drink.
Jesus, I want to be in on that conversation. It's like comedy is like tequila, man. You gotta eat the worm. Wait, no, that's mescal. What I mean to say is,
It doesn't come from the agave plant. It's not gonna be funny. I don't know.
I think if somebody started talking to me about tequila and was like, dude, it doesn't come from agave, I don't know if I would walk away or smack him first.
Yeah. It's like that's one thing that I've always had the bone to pick with the distillery. That on every tequila bottle, they probably imprint right in front 100% from agave. If I ever have tequila that's not 100%, I don't want it. I don't know why. It has to.
Yeah.
Like it has to come from agave. If not, it's not tequila.
Yeah, there's Gavaguero. It's like a Mexican tequila that's super sweet because everything's from the agave plant.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be anything in tequila that's not from the agave.
Yeah. No, but I think the authenticity kind of like waters down as you go north.
Have y'all ever had, and I might be fucking this up, is it pulque?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
I've had it.
Basically like a cheap wine or a quick wine. Yeah, I've never had a chance to try it myself, and from what I understand, the stuff that they can, it doesn't travel at all. But they do can at least one brand of it, and it's supposed to taste like garbage because of the fact that it spoils in the can. But I remember a story my grandpa was telling about. Was down in Mexico after World War II, working for the army, inoculating livestock, and he would go into it's like, hey, come over here. We're having a lunch break, and like dude would just like fucking pull out like a jar of this stuff that like you have to like skim the fucking scum off the top and then like knock the flies off of it. And he's like, nah, man, it's delicious. My grandpa was just like, I wouldn't even try that. But yeah, I'll tell you what though, man, Juarez tequila is, I don't mean from Juarez, I mean there's a brand of tequila called Juarez that I was firmly convinced was just agave flavored ethanol at one point. And if you ever go into a bar around here, it's probably what they use as the house tequila.
Yeah.
It's cheap as fuck, and for a reason. That shit will just rot your gut. Horrible fucking tequila.
Yeah. That's why every bar that I went, I never got the tequila that they had like on tap or whatever. Just never. Like if I couldn't afford from the bottle, I just would not drink tequila. I've had other shit like from tap or whatever, but not.
I will say that you know that you have been drinking for a while in a particular evening when you get to the point where tequila shots don't taste too bad.
Yeah.
There has been some death of taste buds. You need to stop.
Yep. I think that's a good time for you to stop.
Just do some cocaine and go home, boy. Jesus.
Yeah, but I'm missing a fucking drink. But anyway, with tequila, fucking vodka, comedy, and the delivery of jokes is a great way to end this podcast. And I'm still
Watch him as he pulls the parachute. Alright, Freddy, well, if we're capping this thing off, let them know where you're at, brother.
y'all can find me across the board at Freddy G on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Plug the show, man. You got a show coming up this week.
Oh shit, I forgot about that.
Jesus, lad.
When does this come out though?
This is coming out tomorrow.
Oh shit, okay, yeah, I got a show on Wednesday. Sorry, I went blank.
Texas Comedy Roundup. Was that the
Texas Comedy, I can't pronounce the word. Stampede.
Stampede? There you go.
Stampede.
It was something really related.
It's gonna be a live taping for TV. I'm supposed to do a clean set, so wish me luck.
Pray for the man. If you want to find me, you can go to hatfieldstandup@gmail.com, as well as Hatfield Standup on Facebook and Twitter. You can find the audio version of this podcast at shoutengine.com/bouncing brains. You can listen to new episodes premiering every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on RGV Titan Radio, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. We got that morning rush going on for you. And you can also find us on the Twitter. No, I'm sorry, not Twitter. You can find us on Twitter, but you can find us on the Stitcher and Google Music Play app. If you'd like to reach out and get a hold of us, leave us those sound clips. Bouncing Brains Podcast at gmail.com, as well as Bouncing Brains Podcast on Facebook, Bouncing Brains on Twitter and Instagram. And that is it. Thank you for coming, folks.
Good time.